9 KwaZulu-Natal police officers have appeared in court for the alleged attempted murder of Durban businessman Thabiso Ngcobo. Ngcobo is involved in the construction and transport sectors and was apparently travelling along the M30 near Pinetown last month when he was accosted by armed men in 4 vehicles with blue flashing lights who tried to drive him off the road. Ngcobo says they were dressed in camouflage and had balaclavas over their faces. The suspects handed themselves over to police and they have now been granted bail. The matter, we understand, back in court in August. The Independent Police Investigative Directorate is investigating, and spokesperson Phaladi Shuping joins us now. Phaladi, good morning. Thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it. These are apparently members of the provincial task team, and I think it's important to just identify which task team this is and what typically their responsibility is.
Well, good morning, Imad, and good morning to your viewers. Yes, the information that we have is that they are members of the provincial task team. Apparently, the incident happened on the 30th of May, and it was reported to the Independent Police Investigative Directorate on the 3rd of June. That's when our investigators started conducting the investigation. That led to the arrest of 9 officials yesterday morning.
I think that's a very important chronology that you're describing, just how these events unfolded to the point that they handed themselves over. But I'm still trying to understand which provincial task team. Is there a single one? We know that there are task teams for different issues that face the province from a security and safety perspective. What have you been able to find out about exactly where they fit in, which task team this is?
Well, the information that is presented to us so far is that they are members of the provincial task team. We have not yet established as to which task team. Remember, like it was stated by our provincial head in KZN yesterday, they have not yet given us their version. The only version that we are going with is the version of the complainant in the matter.
When you say that the matter, of course, it happened in late May and then reported to IPID at the beginning of June. It's been a month since. What happened in the meantime, Phaladi, that led the police to then hand themselves over? Are you saying that it's as a result of the work that you started doing that these officers handed themselves over? How did this develop?
Well, what happened is that once the incident was reported to our directorate, we had to start conducting the investigation. Remember, the allegations that we have is that on the day of the incident, the complainant did not have an idea that the people that are alleged to be involved in the incident are police officers. So it was only after it was established that it was police officers that as IPID we got involved. So we had to conduct preliminary investigations before we can make any decision as to whether there's evidence for us to arrest or not. So it was only after we gathered a preliminary investigation, after we gathered evidence, that we presented it before the prosecutors, who advised that with evidence that we had at that moment, it was enough for us to effect arrest. So arrangement was made that they're going to be arrested yesterday and they'll also be brought before the court on the same day.
Okay, so it's not as if they willingly just handed themselves over. There was some, as you say, some evidence and a case being made against them, resulting in arrest warrants and led to the developments that we saw. I want to go to this, Phaladi. The Hawks, as well as the provincial anti-corruption units, are also involved in investigating this matter alongside you. How do you coordinate your efforts?
Well, remember, from the side of IPID, what we are investigating is the conduct of the police to see whether at that point, if they acted within the parameters of the law or if they did not act within the parameters of the law. So it's only once the investigation or the evidence that we have that at the moment, the evidence is convincing to us that they did not act within the parameters of the law. Hence, we have taken a decision to arrest. Yes, the law enforcement agencies are always cooperating on issues of investigations where we are sharing resources, but we have taken a decision as law enforcement officers that at the moment they are going to face a charge of attempted murder, but we are not ruling out the possibility of some charges being added at a later stage, depending on what will be revealed by the investigation.
If the charges stick, Phaladi, and the officers that are accused are found guilty, it would certainly constitute a serious violation of their oath to protect and serve the public, but it would also contribute to the public's distrust of law enforcement. How gravely do you as IPID view events like this? In just a moment, we'll talk about the numbers of different types of people involved, the cases and the consequences. But this is, I mean, it's not a great thing, especially in a context where police are trying to build trust with the public, are trying to be seen as effective.
Yes, definitely. It does not augurs well for law enforcement agencies, where we find that law enforcement officers are investigated for criminal conduct. But as you are aware that the institution, Independent Police Investigative Directorate, is established to investigate the acts that are alleged to have been committed by the police. It's a way of ensuring that the police do not act beyond the parameters of the law. So that's why we have IPID that will investigate, and if there is evidence that they did not perform their duties within the parameters of the law, action must be taken against the police officers that are alleged to be involved.
It's quite concerning, Phaladi, that there seems to have been such an abuse of state resources. You have several vehicles, multiple vehicles with the flashing blue lights, men in camouflage, armed to the hilt. If you, believe and you put credibility in the narration of the businessman at the center of all of this, he came under heavy fire. There was this real show of force. It really does raise questions about how police are able to access state resources to carry out, if in fact these were, nefarious actions, or they had breached their responsibilities. And you've already told us that it seems as if they acted outside of the law. What does it say about the controls, even at a station level or at a task team level, about the allocation of resources to officers in the field? Is there an inventory, a checkout book, a logbook? How well controlled are these resources?
Well, unfortunately, from our side as IPID, we will not be in a position to give a proper response to that, because remember, the police officers are managed by the management of the South African Police Service. But yes, it is concerning, especially when you look at this kind of incident where it is alleged that a number of vehicles were involved, or a number of police officers using a number of vehicles were involved in this incident. But from our side is to investigate as to whether their conduct was within the parameters of the law. And then if we have to make recommendations for disciplinary action relating to those officers, a recommendation will be made, but that depends on the further investigation that still has to be conducted.
I guess what I'm also asking, Phaladi, is, typically in your understanding of how this inventory, which really belongs to the state and is paid for by taxpayers, is managed. What is your awareness of how these resources would typically be allocated and the controls that should conventionally be in place to manage how they're used in the field?
Yeah, but like I'm saying to you, Iman, remember every institution has its own policies. SIPID, we have our policies, and SAPS would have their policies as to how they manage their resources. That's the responsibility of the South African Police Service.
All right.
We SIPID cannot say as to whether it was the right thing for a number of vehicles to be there at that point, because we don't know what duties the police officers were performing at that time.
Yeah. Now, what I was essentially was saying was generally one would expect as the public there would be these stringent controls, and I just wanted your perspective on typically controls that would be in place when resources are allocated and deployed. But I won't belabor that point. I want to go to this issue before I let you go, Phaladi. We have heard as well that over 100 officers in the province have been arrested for various offences, and we believe that these are misconduct-related matters. Over the last 3 years, over 300 have been dismissed, suspended or redeployed. On the one hand, it's a good thing that we can see that there's accountability and there are consequences that flow out of misconduct from the police. But on the other hand, deep concern about the levels of misconduct inside the blue line, which should be an inviolable space. It should be a space that is unimpeachable almost in terms of conduct. What's your view on these numbers?
Yes, the numbers are very concerning. Like I said before, the expectation from the public is that as law enforcement officers, all of law enforcement officers will be working together to fight crime in our country. As you are aware of the high crime rate in our country, so it's concerning if you find that there are some of the law enforcement officers that are found to be on the wrong side of the law. But as a normal procedure, we have to conduct an investigation, and once the investigation is done, the case to be presented before the court so that they can appear before the court and charged if they are found guilty.
Yeah.
To ensure that no one is to indicate to the public that there's no one who's above the law.
Just a final thing, they've been granted bail. Again, these are people in positions of power with extensive networks as well. Are you concerned? Was this something you were happy with, that they were given bail?
Well, remember, unfortunately, when it comes to the issue of bail, we can only oppose, but at the end of the day, it will be the decision of the presiding officer as to whether they have advanced any substantial and compelling reasons to be granted bail. So we guess in this case, they advanced the reasons as to why they have to be released on bail. That's why they were granted bail. But their bail does not, it comes with conditions. So our expectation is that possibly they will abide by all the bail conditions that were attached to their release.